Dobar dan in dobrodošli. Buonasera, benvenuti tutti. Good evening, good afternoon. Good afternoon to everyone. We are going to start. I'm pleased to welcome you here at the Pontifical Gregorian University. My name is Peter Lach. I work at the Faculty of Social Sciences at this university, and we also have a communications program. And I will leave it to the organizer, Mr. Rodet, to welcome individually. So I'm quite sure, and I'm very pleased that this event is taking place here at the Gregorian, which is traditionally, we pride ourselves of being the University of the Nations. And we have people from all around the world. And Družina comes from this small country which is called Slovenia. However, it is a very, very big publishing house and medium. I'm very happy to be able to host you here, because I think not only to celebrate the past 70 years of its life, but mostly because I find it an excellent example of what it means to be a contemporary, modern Catholic medium. So welcome, and I pass the word to Tone Rodet.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lach, and I would like to thank Gregoriana University for hosting us. So thank you very much for coming. This is supposed to be an open conversation about the present state of the media and what role can Catholic media actually play in this particular environment. We have fragmentation. We have a war at the doorstep of Europe. What does it have to do? How could Catholic media actually improve, help, foster human development? And of course, I would like to connect this conversation with these two questions. Of course, the beginnings of mass media were in a way intimately related to democracy. At the end of the 19th century, actually, without mass media, probably we wouldn't have had such a development of parliamentary democracy and actually the development of let's say it like that, a thinking individual who was also a voter. What happened in the last years that actually it doesn't seem so anymore? We are so much fragmented, also within the church, if I may say. So, but let's not lose this general scope at the beginning. So I'm thinking about, media as a whole, not just Catholics. How did we come here, and what do you see could be some way out of this? And I would start by asking this question to Dr. Lach, who's an expert in this area.
Thank you very much. It's an excellent question, and as so many excellent questions, it doesn't actually have a clear answer. If we knew that, we would not have a problem, obviously, if you knew the answer. I think you said it very well. So mass media are a modern project and are intimately tied to the development of democracy, of the, as you said, thinking and autonomous, self-governing individuals. So and also intimately tied to education, so to the raising of the human knowledge and spirit. And we should not forget that mass media basically are concomitant. They go, on parallel tracks, the development of the whole educational system also, not just the mass media. So we are talking about what we used to call a project of modernity, a thinking, autonomous individual, enlightened individual who can take care of his own, her own affairs. What we forgot in the process, and now we are going, I'm coming to today with this fragmentation when inherent in the mass media is that few people speak and the majority listens. And this is kind of a normal state of affairs when we talk about the progress of the human spirit or of the education or of enlightenment. There are very few excellent people. The majority listens in order to learn. And now we have a situation where most people talk and it seems nobody listens. I think I see this sociologically or structurally as a main problem of this, I call it a modern media, digital media ecology. So we don't, it is fragmented, it is decentered. We talk about the infrastructure of the network. It's no longer centralized, but networked, which does empower the individual. But then, frankly speaking, how competent are we in all the matters where we have a say or where we ought to do something? We lost this excellence, so the excellence of the spirit. We lost the excellence of this educational enlightenment process where few people who are knowledgeable, responsible, have the spirit of the common good, are then entrusted with the media ecosystem and then use this media ecosystem to help people improve. That was the modern process of which Družina was a very important part at the beginning. Now, these, if everybody can talk, who listens, and what I'm trying to say is, the more people talk, the less time and energy they have to listen and to learn. So that's kind of leads to a deflation of everything.
Thank you. I haven't introduced the other two participants. Let me give a warm welcome also to Dr. Nataša Govekar from the Dicastery for Communication of the Vatican. Have I said it right?
Yes, you have.
And Jesús Colina from Aleteia. So maybe you want to comment on who would like to be the first one? Nataša?
Yes, just a short comment, thinking of listening, which is also the focus of this year's Pope's message for the World's Communication Day. It's an interesting point. If we talk all the time, who will have time to listen? And if I'm now remembering an old joke said by Cardinal Spitlik, who used to be a professor here at the Gregorian University also. He said we tend to begin to talk, and while we talk, we hope that sooner or later we will understand what to say sooner or later, but while talking. So the importance of listening and reflecting before. So my opinion, we are somewhere in the middle now, because maybe we are beginning to understand that it is not possible to go on this way, that everybody has to say immediately everything, everywhere, without any regard to who is he talking to and what are the consequences. So, I will give an example. At the beginning of the pandemic, even in the families or communities, I think it was very common that you have received a message and you just forward it, share it without any control. Now, at least in my community, I see, okay, let's check. Is this picture really sent from St. Petersburg? Is this picture really done today? What message am I sharing with the others if I share just in my WhatsApp group? So maybe we are beginning to say there is a problem, there could be a problem.
Mm-hmm. So you've pointed out a key question. I think we are all lacking dialogue here in media and in society in general. Listening is the first step. There's no other way forward. And maybe, Jesús, could you comment on that?
Yes, I think you have pointed the origin of the problem, and the impact is the lack of dialogue. In the previous society, before the digital networks, the dialogue was imposed by reality. You were forced to enter in contact with people that don't think as you think, and it was a kind of exercise of dialogue. In the digital networks, in social media, you can avoid to enter in dialogue with people that don't think as you think, because you can create bubbles. And these bubbles, where only people like me talk like me, we don't listen, we talk everyone. We create these bubbles, and the algorithms promote the bubble, because the algorithm wants to keep the people in the network. So the best way is to continue offering this kind of content that it is engaging, but keep us always on the same bubble. So the challenge is how to break the filter bubble, how to break these worlds apart, where the people in the different social media or digital networks are engaged, but they are not anymore exposed to other kind of thinking.
Well, let us now focus maybe more specifically on the role of Catholic media within this situation. And to me, I mean, we're not here just to praise Družina for its 70th anniversary. You know, we're here to debate and to discuss what went wrong, what went right, and what can we do in the future to be better at what we do. So my question is, there's a lack of dialogue. There's a divide also between, I would say, parties, groups within the church, media with different focuses, if you like. And in a way, wasn't it always like that? In a way, when it comes to Catholic media, you know, in a way, we always felt like responsive to something that was coming from outside. I don't know, there was a challenge in, I would say, social teaching or maybe society, I don't know, the appearance of socialism or whatever, and then we come, you know, up with the idea of Catholic social teaching, which is nothing new. Of course, it comes directly from Jesus' teachings, but we needed an external, I would say, motive to help us become better at what we are. So, and then my question actually goes to the fact of how much politically and socially involved Catholic media should be. I mean, I remember, let's take, for example, the example of Družina, when it was actually the only oppositional media in Slovenia. I mean, it was the voice of the people that were not heard. There was a totalitarian regime, and we were daring at trying to defend and be close to people. And it's not the only example in these times. We could say, okay, this was maybe a communist regime in this case, but from my experience in Latin America, I can easily point out also other types of Catholic media that did the same, but from a completely opposite spectrum, or political spectrum. So, what's your take on that? How could we better handle the social, if I may say also the political aspect of what we do, of our involvement in the society? We are not pariahs, you know, living outside of the bubble, but we're part of the society and we want to make it better. So, how can we do it?
To me, okay. Now, shall I repeat what Father Peter said before, of course, I do not have the answer. But maybe some reflection, if this can contribute in some way to search for the answer. I was thinking about this, that actually the Catholic community or the Christian community should be the expert of dialogue. That we should have somehow more competence on dialogue. Why? Because we were born from the Pentecost, which is the unity of otherness, is the harmony of all the possible differences that you can imagine. So somehow the more I'm open to the other, the more I'm willing to listen to his point of view, the more Christian I am. At least this is how it should be. But then, on the other hand, I think that we can all see in this time maybe more than before, because at least in the case of Družina and of the Slovenian environment, there is no external condition, but is everything moving. You can't even understand where. And I was reflecting about this vulnerability, which is probably exactly because we are not so exercised in dialogue. So vulnerability of some segments of society, which can sometimes correspond to some segments of religious community, and which can sometimes correspond to some segments of Catholic community. And how are we supposed to enter in these bubbles and to begin to listen to each other? I don't know, but I cannot imagine another way than try again to be open to the other and hope that sooner or later we can find at least a little piece of common ground, at least a little piece. But this is, I don't know if this is helpful, but to think that we have this in our Christian identity. It's not possible to be Christian and not to be in continuous dialogue with the historical context, with all the possible otherness that I encounter in my everyday life.
If you take in consideration America is probably the society of communication, where the Catholic Church has an important role, and the Catholic media have also an important role. If you see the positions of the Catholic media in America about, for example, the debates before the presidential election between Trump and Biden, or about vaccines, pro or against, you will see that the positions of the Catholic media represent more or less the position of the American society. The same divisions. So there is a problem. There is not the creativity in the Catholic media to present another world. And probably this is the question that I have asked myself for more than 30 years that I do this work. And I ask myself, what is the difference of a Catholic media with another media? What is the difference of a Catholic journalist or communicator with someone who is not Christian, who is not Catholic? So, what is the difference? It is a professional issue? No, because we have the same professional standards. If we are talking about journalism, We need to verify the sources. We need to offer an objective report that avoid ideology. And probably this is a question mark, but so it is not, the difference is, it is not on professional skills. It is not on ethical standards, because the rest of the journalists, the rest of the media, the secular media, need to respect ethical standards, as we need to respect. So it is not ethical, it is not professional, so where is the difference? For me, the difference is the same difference that makes different a Christian doctor, a Christian worker, a Christian architect, which is the Commandment of Love. This is what makes us different. If we try to live the love in our professional work, we can create a revolution, because we can create a dialogue. If we love the enemy, we can enter in dialogue with the enemy. If we react to our enemies with hate, with verbal violence, we never create the basis for a real dialogue. So I think once again, Commandment of Love is the only real added value that we can really bring to our love today. And my question would be, are we Catholics are aware?
Yeah, thank you. Maybe just a thought as I was listening to you, I hope you'll pardon me being a Jesuit for quoting Jesus, but being in the world but not of the world. You said that, so for example, you made the example of the Catholic media in the United States that are obviously very much in the world, but where's the difference? So I think that we need to find this balance between being otherworldly, so being irrelevant, talking or creating our own ghettos, our own interpretive bubbles that have no relation with the reality in which we live, or being so much part of the world that we actually stop being the leaven, stop being this difference. And I agree. So what we call in the Catholic social teaching, we call this, orientation to the common good. That is, Pope Francis called it political friendship or social friendship. So this is love. This is love. It's nothing. It's not a romantic love. It's affirming life in all its diversity. And I wanted to add and that's, I like it that you mentioned journalism. So being otherworldly, I don't want this to become a long lecture, but the key issue that I perceive today is our relationship to truth. Our relationship to truth in journalism or in education or in the democracy that we talked about before. So the Enlightenment process, the modern process, is we verify facts. So our truth is something that meets us, and it's not a superficial thing. I really have to work hard to get to the bottom of things. So it's not about opinion. This modern media environment is all about expressing ourselves, my opinion, my truth. No, this has nothing to do with this very, very hard work of getting to the bottom of things, trying to understand the reality, and that includes the other person. meeting the other person with respect as he or she is, not as I would want them to be. And I think these are the real challenges of today's world. And so openness, respect for the other, and being willing to learn. I do not possess truth. I cannot possess Jesus. Jesus is the truth. But I can encounter Jesus and truth in my life. But it's a hard work.
Thank you very much for these ideas, but this brings me actually to the question of quality in journalism in general, in media in general, and let's be critical also in Catholic media. In a way, I understand that, and that's something Družina had for all their 70 years, and its ambition to be part of the public debate. You cannot be heard if you are just meant to address, the weekly churchgoers in their specific problems. Am I wrong about that? I think that this ambition to reach others where they are, in the language they use, is something that we were, in a way, losing progressively, or not, I would say, just by staying where we were, we lost sight of how society is quickly evolving, and sometimes you need to change the language actually to be able to address the same society that all of a sudden has a different, understanding of what you're saying. So, and as Flannery O'Connor, what she said, Catholic writer, and when they asked her, she was a Catholic, what is Catholic literature? And she said, there's no Catholic literature, there's just good literature, and probably it's the same with journalism and media. We first need to be really, I think, in a way, ambitious, but I would change this word into generous. I think we need to be open to others and be part of the public debate. And that's something I hope Družina will not lose in the years to come. That's something that we need to keep. And of course, we also need to keep on refining the language used to address our society. Is there anything that comes to mind to any of you about this thought? Maybe somebody would like to comment?
For me, you are pointing a huge problem that is always present in the Catholic media, which is we mixed the message with ideology. We don't really do communication, we don't really do journalism, we do ideology. Because we think that we have a message, that this message has a social proposal, and this message needs to be heard, and it becomes the priority. And we don't listen, we don't see the facts, we don't work professionally on the real facts, on real communication. I will put you an example to explain me better. In Spain, where I come from, there are huge debates between left and right. In the right side, there is no great or important thinkers, media groups that are able to present their proposal, their editorial line. And it happens that today, for example, in radio, the only one who is able to talk about, to present the center right-wing proposal is the Catholic radio network. But what means? It means that if you are Catholic, you are from center right. It means that the political battle becomes a real goal for a Catholic media. And we lose our freedom, we lose our Catholicism, because we are not anymore over the debates. So what I am trying to say, it is so easy to take one part of the message, of the Christian message, only a part, to make it an ideology, and to focus our media world as Catholics on this particular ideology.
Maybe let me just continue the thought. If I can be daring to the thought you just expressed, in a way, to be in this world also means to counterbalance pendulums that occur in society, or not? I mean, I coming from, Družina's experience, 50 years, of a communist rule, it was logical that Družina would foster the things and the values that actually the society was lacking. Is it important then to actually always look at the sign of the times and what it is required today from us, or I would say a general distance and neutrality is possible? I'm just provoking a thought here.
It is not a question of neutrality; it's a question of service.
Yes.
And let me put the issue of Slovenia. Slovenia is a particular country. We call that a laboratory. I have explained that to many times. Why Slovenia is a laboratory? Slovenia is not as Poland or as Croatia, where the Catholic Church is still part of the society, of the nation as an identity, unifying identity. Slovenian society is a very they have a lot of different point of views in terms of conception of the society, where Christianism and Catholicism are a creative minority. So, what is the goal of a Catholic media in this environment? It couldn't be an ideological role, because it becomes an ideological role. You become a message only for a part of the society. You become a bubble where only people in agreement with you can remain, and gospel will not be anymore announced. So for us, and this is the reason why we were so happy to start Aleteia in Slovenia. Slovenia is the laboratory where we are understanding how to enter in dialogue in society. And it's a laboratory because Slovenia is a great country, especially in basketball and many other areas. But it is 2 million people, so you can understand better analytics are much easier than if you work in America or in Brazil. So it's a real laboratory on how the Catholic Church can engage a real dialogue in society, and we are talking here through the media.
Nataša, maybe you would like to?
Oh, just I would just, from my perspective of being a Slovenian but living outside Slovenia for more than 20 years, agree with Jesús, because it's true that sometimes I observe from kind of a distance, and I say, okay, everything that happens all around you can see it better in Slovenia because it's such a little country. So you can see it better because it becomes. But this usually means, I imagine, for who lives inside, that can even become more dramatic. It is not granted. We should not take it for granted that these multiple positions and different views are always also in harmony.
Peter?
Yeah, I've been thinking about another metaphor. Christians are asked to be the leaven and the salt of the world. And when I started to think about this, it occurred to me that we actually don't eat salt. It's quite disgusting. But the world without the salt is also tasteless. For us, the challenge, if I would to recode this word service of the human person, is exactly, we want to be relevant to the world, to that human person, but in a way that makes it better. That, I think, it's very simple. This relevance, obviously, that's a very tricky proposition, because we need to make the distinction between relevance and power, and the distinction is not always easy. Politics is about power, whereas our call is about being relevant. I think there is a wisdom in the separation between the church and the state that from our end means that, for example, priests are not supposed to be active in political parties, precisely because they are parties and they are not the whole, and we want to be in the service of the whole human person. And this is the real prophecy. I mean, it's much easier to have your clear colors and flags, and then you go and you adopt these political or ideological programs. It's clear, it's easier, but it is also so far below what we are actually called to be.
Dear audience, are you tired already? Will you last 10 more minutes? Okay, you will. I encourage you actually to write down maybe any questions that you may have, because the conversation so far, it's, I think, very precious. But let me just go one step deeper, also trying to analyze what's going on with Catholic media as a whole. There's another question that I always ask myself when dealing with the future of a company like Družina, and it's the role of, the difference between these three roles that actually a lot of media people within the church need to have. The first role is, of course, church PR. The second role is probably the role of Vatican media. It's specific. It has, the role of promoting the word of the Holy Father and so on, and many other things. And then there's the rest of, Catholic media as you know it, and as Družina is. But these roles are, in a way, often mixed up. And I would say that also other referential, personalities within the church don't understand that very clearly. And it's a field of confusion, if I may say so. What is your opinion? What can we do to improve in this area? Who would like to start?
I think the problem is that you have underlined the problem for some pastors, some Catholics, that don't understand that Catholic media is not a way of proselytism. It means they understand Catholic media as another instrument of power. if I am a pastor, a bishop, I need to preach, and I have the pulpit for the Sunday Mass, and I want to have a Catholic TV for my people. But media don't work like this. Media are not ends, are media in the way that are useful for, are instruments for, but are not the end, are not power, are service. The problem is when we understand media as a power and no as a service. And after that, everything is easier to understand. Everyone in his own vocation as PR or as evangelizers or as media that engage in dialogue with society. But again, service is the answer.
Yeah, thank you. I often lament in my classes here to my students. They have to listen to me and my laments. But we lost a very important. We lost the vocation of a journalist. I think one of the biggest casualties of these changes is the profession of a journalist. A journalist is someone who helps me understand what's going on and who has this, his orientation or her orientation is not to the advertiser who paid him or to the boss who paid him, but he serves the people, the public, I think. And we, in these developments that you just mentioned, Tone, PR, propaganda, a kind of advocacy that is kind of means steamrolling or yelling, being louder than the other person. That's what's lacking there, is a person. I mean, journalists deserve all the blame that they get, but they are not getting enough credit for the one thing that they do well. They are intelligent, they have access to sources, and if they are doing their job properly, they are able to understand what is really important and relevant for their audiences, not for the boss, not for the advertisers, not for the politician who... So when we take the journalist out of the picture, we as audiences, we as people on the receiving end of messages and of communication, we become victims of whoever wants to manipulate us. And this is exactly what's happening. Nataša mentioned to that when I get my feed on Twitter or on Facebook. Now I have to make the work that a journalist used to do. I have to verify, and I do not have time and skills to verify the relevance and the quality of that information. So we are this bright new world of, networked communication, the decentered communication has all made us all very, very vulnerable to manipulation.
Okay, maybe I can just add some words from the perspective of the role of Vatican media, which I could say are somehow called to be a breach, not just because pontifex means making bridges, but yes, because it's clear that you cannot replace what should be done in local communities at the service of the local communities and also from the perspective of the local communities. But exactly by being the bridge, this allows also, I would hope so, this allows, this should be the vocation, to put in communion all these different local communities and to allow us to have at least a little smell of this universal belonging to something much, much bigger than I am and than my local community is. Then the other word would be about the work of journalists. I was now calling at my mind some words of Pope Francis, and exactly in times of crisis. For example, maybe we have already forgotten, but when he was flying back from Ireland, I believe, yes, and he was asked to comment the accusation, and he was very clear: journalists, do your work, I trust you. You will find out the truth, I trust your work. Or now, in the midst of the war, he is repeating it. We should be thankful to journalists because they allow us to know at least what's going on. They help us by being there and by also not only risking their lives, but also sacrificing their lives. So I think that Pope Francis himself is giving us the right perspective of what should be, and also to get back to what Jesús said, we should not be advertisers. That's what he said to us from the Dicastery for Communication at the last plenary meeting. He said, one thing that I can say, what communication is not, it is not advertising, it is not proselytism, but it is witness. And then we are back to what does it mean to be witness.
Well, we have talked a lot about the social, the political, the general, also a little bit also about the role of Catholic media. But I would like to now turn onto a key question, which is actually how can Catholic media put God, Jesus, in the center of what we do? I mean, I remember I was reading a couple of days ago Guardini's book, The Lord, and he is actually kind of critical of the church caritative and social work when it is only, focused on easing people's suffering, giving material means to people. And I mean, I think in a way, in this field, we can easily forget what we are doing. And we are actually not mirroring Jesus' proposition to every person. It's not about erasing the suffering. It's about giving it meaning. So, your thoughts on that? How can we put Christ in the center of what we do?
Jesuits first.
Okay, I continue with Jesus. Jesus said, I'm the path, I'm the truth, and I'm life. And I find great inspiration in these words. So, because the path implies a process, it's walking. And usually Jesus himself joined the two disciples that were desperate for meaning and for consolation. So I think that's what we do in the Catholic media, in the sense that they serve the Christian community, and the name Družina implies that, so it serves the family, which is the basis of a Christian community. The Catholic media accompanies them and then brings them life. I mean, life is, to me, is the key question. So everything that gives life to people is what we do, what is the outcome of what we do. So I don't have a very particular, specific recipe for that. It is simply what you have been doing in the case of Družina, and what all good communicators do, is being with people, strengthening what brings life in people, committed to truth. And I must say, as a journalist, someone who by heart is a journalist, or also as a professor, truth is no easy matter. It takes a lot of effort and work and hard choices and suffering to get to truth, and then to bear witness to truth. I mean, I'm always afraid of people who, wave their Bible or whatever, their Communist Manifesto, and say, this is the truth. No. It's it's much, much more than that.
I couldn't find a better answer than Father Peter. I would like only to complement his answer. Why people love media? Why people love reading newspapers? Because people like people. We want to know what the others do. So what means in our work to put God at the center? Father answered very well to the answer. And we need to do it in a way that people like people, that the witnesses, the light of the lives of the people that we are talking about, shine the beauty of God. But is implicit, is in the different aspects of human life. Is not preaching, is showing how you can't understand the facts, you can't understand the human person if you don't take also in consideration the light of eternity.
Okay, maybe I can only add this binomium of contemplation and action that cannot be separated when we act as Christians. So whatever I do, whatever I reflect on, whatever I write about or communicate about, should be somehow illuminated by my contemplation, and vice versa. My acts should reflect what is the content of my contemplation. Maybe this was already solved by the letter of Jacob. Show me your faith without works, and I will show you my faith through the works. I don't know if this is useful, but this would also, to go back to the previous questions, this would also be the answer to what makes it different to be a Christian journalist, or should Christians have only their own Christian Catholic media, or should they be like salt among the others? Both are needed.
I was tempted to provoke again with a question of, about how earthly and how heavenly should we be. And I remember the singer from Argentina and Uruguay who was singing a song like, "No soy de aquí, no soy de allá." I'm not from here, I'm not from there. But you answered the question. Actually, we're both from here and then, and it has to work one in hand with the other. So my last questions before we go to the questions of the audience. Have I missed anything? Are there any other opportunities Catholic media should grasp, should actually embrace and we are not doing it right now? Does anything come to mind?
Okay, go ahead. No, I wanted just to add an image to also to the previous question and to this last one. It was something that came out actually from our internal synodal process that we are doing at the Dicastery for Communication, as we are an extra large dicastery with very, very different roles and competencies, and people don't even know each other. So we try to do it by mixing the different groups, and then in the yesterday group, somebody said, okay, we are like different pieces of a big puzzle. And this made me reflect on what could be maybe the role also of Catholic media in this fragmented world. So you cannot do, or it is at least it is more interesting to do the puzzle together, not just by yourself, but few people together. So do it together, but you cannot do it if you don't have the final picture. So if you are not contemplating the final picture, which would theologically mean kingdom of God, eschaton. No, if we contemplate the final picture, then we are able to discover this piece and this other piece, and this is matching and this is not matching. So it just made me reflect that maybe we should be the contributors to the final picture, and that's what help us to recognize the pieces and to try to put them together.
And that's what makes us true believers, actually, and actually Christians, looking to history from the end and not from Jesús.
It is very stimulating what Nataša explains, and I would try to say with other words. If you take Catholic media, for example, in America, you will see that there are newspapers, news agencies, sites, blogs in the far right, in the middle far right, in the right, in the center right, in the center. You have a lot of small chapels or small groups that are dividing the Catholic community. How we can see the eschaton, how we can follow a path of unity, understanding what is the real meaning of the gospel, what unites all of us. Father Peter said that before, with the common God and with the real message of Jesus. So looking for the final picture means to go to the fundamentals, to the real gospel, to the real Jesus, and forget other sensibilities, personal choices, etc. This is the miracle of unity in the diversity. I understand that is very, very difficult, but I think we need to dream. We need to work for that.
Well, to answer your question, we haven't touched the biggest elephant in the room, basically, which is, implicitly we're talking about the modern media environment, the digital, the social network platforms, and all that. So what we are carrying in our pockets, basically. But that's too big of a conversation. My wish and my desire and my sincere wish for Družina and for all Catholic media is that they take the incarnation of God seriously. So don't be too much on the other side, so don't be too much in the other world. But take that seriously, accompany people in a good way, walk with people. But mostly in terms, what really bothers me today is this, people lost faith in truth, basically. Truth is what I like. I mean, we lost that very, very demanding, the beauty of truth. I mean, the recent popes have spoken so eloquently of that. The beauty of truth, but truth is hard work, and in journalism that means the orientation to the common good, obviously, serving people, but most importantly, sticking to the facts, the key old, we are learning. We are not telling this world what truth is. We are learning from this world what is true.
Well, at this point, I think that's it. Thank you very much to all three panelists. And I see a raised hand over there, and I will give you the microphone for your question.
Hello, I am Bohumil Petric. I'm the only Vaticanist and journalist in all of Italy from Slovakia. So not Slovenia, Slovakia, ex-Czechoslovakia. And my question is, I would say quite simple. At the same time, I think it is important. Jesús Colina rightly said that it's obvious in the center of the Catholic media there should be Christ. But at least it seems to me, I haven't done any statistics, but it seems to me that oftentimes it's about the Pope. They are Pope-centric rather than Christ-centric. And another problem is that these media do not basically address very controversial issues. That is why then the secular media, which are sometimes simplistic, sometimes hostile to the church and so on, take the agenda, and that is a problem. If we do not have on the Vatican news any news about synodal way, the very controversial synodal path, then who else would take this news? Who would inform about it? Other media who would say, okay, you see, there is division in the church. And it's not the Catholic media who create or who should avoid division, but what does it mean? Should they not write about the division that is already in the place? So this is a problem. So my question to you is, how do you address these controversial issues, and whether the Catholic media actually do it and why they do not do it?
Who would like to start? Jesús?
This is a very difficult question, and it is a very important question for us as Aleteia, I think, but probably for all of you. If you do an analysis on why the Catholic Church in countries as France, Italy, maybe Italy less, France or Spain or Germany, are losing a lot of followers, a lot of people going to the church on Sundays. One of the main reasons are the scandals of the division, not abuse scandals, which is also an issue. No. For more than 30 years, the fact that people see how Catholics engage in hard polemics, hard attacks, this takes out our credibility. And these polemics are fostered by Catholic media. So I think this is the most complicated question. You also said something that Father Peter Lag explained before, which is if we go deeper on Christ as the center of our message, we risk to become irrelevant because we are not anymore near to the problems of the people. So the question of how to search for the truth without being polemic is a huge question. First, truth means hard work. But once you find truth, sometimes is polemic. So it's double. The difficulty is double. So here, I think we need first to respect the facts, the people, and second, to give our added value, which is the commandment of love that Jesus offered us. So it means that always when you speak about a person, even if this person doesn't have your same ideas, you need to love her. You love him. You need to respect. You need to show eyes of respect. So first truth, but always with charity, with love.
Yeah, that's in journalism schools in America. You learn one of the first things that you learn is if it bleeds, it leads. You don't find stories about harmony, about beauty, about stuff like that on the front page of a newspaper. So, and this is not because journalists are evil. This is because people are curious about things that bleed and controversy and all that stuff. So for a Catholic journalist or for the church journalist, this is where it really becomes difficult to bear witness, to remain relevant to people and yet not give in to these dynamics. You mentioned the abuse scandal that is causing so much suffering. I remember very vividly, so the things changed in the United States. I had the inkling at the point when it happened that this is an epochal change. It was in 2002. It changed the moment when a senior cardinal in the United States said, "I apologize. This is not just a sin, this is a crime and a sin." And bringing these two things together, we haven't managed it yet. We used to think, there were two different keys of interpretation. The bishops were addressing the issue as an issue of a sin, an ethical, theological question, whereas the journalists and the police and the politicians saw it as a crime. It is both, but bringing these two things together, to see the same reality and manage to go deeper than this, bloodthirsty journalists or whoever. But it's not because journalists are evil again, it's because they speak to our passions. And we need to train ourselves, not just the journalists, also the readers and the viewers. But the real prophetic role, the role of the witness, is how to give a new interpretation key to the same reality that we have, to the reality of the abuse. Is it a crime? Is it a sin? No, it is both. And we need to find a way of addressing it at a new level.
Nataša, let me just comment on that very shortly. I remember we have common friends at our Sunday Visitor, a very big company in the States, Catholic publisher also. I don't know if I'm gonna say it correctly, but their motto is something like courageous search for truth in loving prudence. I think it in a way, at the beginning, you need courage. Without that, I mean, even courage to say truth to power, okay? Even if it sounds so silly now that I said it, you know, I mean, it was said so many times without really meaning it. So courage to search truth, but again, actively set up our love and prudence. That leads to prudence. Any other questions, maybe? Or have we exhausted the theme, the subject? Any question? Okay, well, so that's it. Let's give a round of huge applause to the panelists, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Thomas.